good to go?
I'm good to go.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Talk to Danielle podcast. I am your host, Danielle C. Baker. And before we get started, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to whichever channel you're listening or watching from. And of course, this is season 4. So I do invite you to have a look at the 3 previous seasons. There will be some episodes there that may resonate more with your reality today, and they are timeless. So what you see on there is going to be beneficial to you and your needs at this moment. And we're going to jump right in with another very interesting topic. And what I really like about this is it reaches mostly our youth, our teenagers, young adults, and above. It's not just about kids and early childhood education, but it is good that can be transferred over. We are going to be talking about emotional intelligence today, EI, and I know this is a very hot topic, but my guest today has a really nice, unique way of approaching it, and that's why I wanted to share it. So I have the wonderful Ellie Laliberte with me today. And Ellie, I think it's your third time on my podcast.
Yeah,
She's just one of my day ones when I first started the podcast, and so I do invite you to have a look at her other episodes as well. We share a lot of values, we share a lot of similar thoughts, especially when it comes to leadership and how to show up for the people around us. So we're going to jump right in. Before we get started, can you talk a little bit about what you do and how you got to where you are today?
yeah, absolutely. Thank you again for having me on your podcast. I'm always excited because I feel like it's always a great conversation. I think that we flow with each other so nicely. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for the conversation. So yes, well, I've done a couple of things in my life, as you know, going on
Yes.
different episode and talking about different things. But lately, I've been really concentrated in teaching emotional intelligence inside of industries, so inside of businesses and also inside schools. And it was a surprise to me that I would go into schools because at the beginning it was just mostly for businesses. But then I got to collaborate with someone who was already doing some programs, some leadership trainings in schools and for high school students mostly. So we're not going too young, but we're going with the teenagers, like 11 and 12 grade. And yeah, so I we've only started, at the beginning of February, so it's really new as a program. It has not been new in my life, although I've been into emotional intelligence since I was practically 21 years old. So I've
Mhm.
had a lot of experience. I've wrote 2 books, not necessarily on emotional intelligence, but within the book, you can see a lot of emotional intelligence for sure inside of both books. And so, yeah, I've been doing the author thing for a while, and now I'm still doing the author thing on the side, but I'm mostly, yeah, I'm concentrated right now on delivering this beautiful program on EI. And there's a distinction, just so you know, there's a reason why I called it EI, so it's called EI Connected because I wanted to make the distinction with AI, right? Because AI is really just trending big time and going very fast, but I want to bring back that balance with emotional intelligence and just bring that back the awareness to people that hey, that intelligence is very, very valuable and it's
Yeah.
very important in our world and we need to come back to that for sure. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
I love that. I love that you're bringing because you really said it. The You hit the nail on the head. I don't even know if that's the right expression, but you know what I mean.
Makes sense.
You really hit the bullseye on keeping that balance between that virtual world, digital
Yeah.
world that is not human. And so, really,
Yeah.
what keeps us separate from the machine now is our emotional intelligence. And what I love about the work that you do, because it's really a hot topic right now in businesses and cultures and
Yeah.
the CEO world, all of that. But to finally bring it into the schools, so we keep saying that we've not taught this at school. We're not taught this at school. So why aren't we not teaching this at school? So I love that you have that available and it's well received in the schools because that's the
Yes.
other challenge is to get into the schools. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know you do work both at school and on the business side of things when it comes to leadership. So I don't know which is the best way for you to separate them or just kind of walk us through what that looks like in terms of your
Yeah,
framework.
absolutely. So what It's actually funny, and that's what I was expressing with my business partner the other day was, when we give a training to high school students, it's not so different that when we give a training to a business, because emotional intelligence is not talked so much about enough. Like it's not talked enough about, right? So the teenagers that are in grade 11, so they're 16 and 17, they're pretty much at the same place almost. It's sad to say, but if you don't have the awareness, you're going to be at the same level of understanding, right? So we have to
Yeah.
start at the basis and really like explain even just like what is an emotion.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a big difference in the way that I teach both trainings. So really, like we started the basics and we explored the fundamentals of emotional intelligence and really just try to bring that awareness to we have this system inside of us that are called emotions, and we need to know what they're really about, and also like kind of like take out the stigma, because I do
Yeah.
believe that there is a stigma. People sometimes are, afraid of talking about emotions. Other people not so much that they're afraid, but they feel like that's weakness, and so they don't see the necessity of talking about emotions. There's so many misconceptions about like emotions, and we're there really to just bring out the not the science behind it, but almost, because we do bring energy around it, and we just bring the awareness of like what is happening inside of you. Why are you reacting this way, a certain way, and what is it that you can't manage inside of yourself? If you want to be a leader, you have to start by managing yourself if you really want to be able to manage other people. So it
Yeah.
doesn't really make sense to ignore your own system if you want to like manage other systems outside of you, right? So with 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 teenagers, what we're doing right now, we're inside of it's mostly teenagers that are taking kind of like leadership roles, that want to take out leadership roles within like for work or whatever, where they're going into their I don't know, endeavors after the high school, right? So
Right.
kind of targeting more these kind of programs that are already set up inside of schools, although it's very, very new, I think. Um, and it's very new as well that they do have that openness to receive this kind of information. But it's amazing that they are doing that, because it goes with the leadership,
Mm.
absolutely, right? So they want to be an entrepreneur. Well, you're going to go through a lot of emotions. You're going to have to handle yourself and manage, yourself very wisely if you want to be able to persist in being an entrepreneur, or even if you're a manager or supervisor, whatever role that you have that is meant to to lead people. There are so many challenges that comes with that. There's a beauty in that though too, but there's a lot of emotion, a lot of challenges, and that can be very, very overwhelming, and it can overwhelm,
Yeah.
like it can really kind of this deregulate you if you want, so it's interesting, and I really love what we're doing as well. We're giving them kind of like scenarios to play with. We want them to work as a team in the
Mhm.
training, so they're doing kind of like introspection, and then they're talking about it and sharing it with their colleagues. We put them in groups, and we do the same thing with managers and supervisors and directors as well, because you have to understand how to work as a team. Like we don't want to just do one-on-ones, because it really goes against the culture aspect.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So that's what we're teaching. We're really teaching them to, it's so important, for your team to connect with you. So we talk a lot about human connection as well, because obviously right now with AI and with the internet, whatnot, we're not connecting enough as humans, and we have to come back to that. So yeah, that's kind of like where we go. There's so much more that comes with it, right? But like
Yeah.
authenticity and learning about authenticity through emotional intelligence and all that. But it goes deep, but it's easy to understand and comprehend. We don't go too we don't want to lose them, right? So
No, exactly. And it's because it's still relatively new in terms of presenting it in that way that it is
yeah,
necessary to just, but it's so important, especially with the teenagers, because there is so many different generations in the workforce right now, and everybody seems to be on the
yeah,
same wavelength when it comes to saying the youth right now are not really prepared for the workforce.
yeah,
And this is a huge thing for them to come up. They'll probably be ahead of many adults as well if they come up knowing what that looks like to be your authentic self,
yeah.
and that to have that, like you say, you can't lead others if you can't lead yourself.
Mhm.
You're less reactive when you understand what's triggering you and why it's triggering you and how to do that. And it's also so, like you also mentioned that emotions, that our youth are not too familiar with how to express necessarily their emotions, but in the workplace, it's also something where for a long time it's like we shouldn't have emotions involved in the workplace. It should be
Mhm.
all
Yeah,
objective. But the reality is that that's not what happens.
no,
So can you talk to us a little bit of what that means, like for like the business culture, the enterprise culture? That would work in the classroom culture as well. But there's such an increase in burnout. We see that it affects everybody in every way, and it does affect businesses in classrooms as well. So can you talk to a little bit about what that means for a business in terms of trying to integrate this new culture in their environment?
yeah, yeah, for sure. So to start off, like I don't want people to think that we're there to put the blame on the leadership department, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not about blaming anybody. It's really about wanting to understand a different kind of like just add a level of maturity inside of an organization, right? So you can't know what you don't know. And because of that, it's kind of like a parent, right? It
Mhm.
goes
Yeah.
for, with you deal a lot with parents.
Yeah.
Kind of like a parent that has a child and they know what they know, and they can't know
Yeah.
what they don't know unless they have an open mind and an open heart, and they do a lot of research and they want to learn more, right? um
Hmm.
so what's going to happen with this child, obviously, is that they are going to be led by a parent that, is lacking self-awareness or lacking emotional intelligence. And so they are going to behave in a way
Yeah.
where they've been taught to behave in that way. And if they don't get, um, their parents don't teach them otherwise, well, they're going to stay with that concept, right? So inside of a business, it's kind of like the same thing. And that's why I feel that it's so powerful when, like directors can see this, because
Hmm.
as a leader, and especially a director of a company, you have so much power that you don't even know that you have that power. And when I say power, I'm not meaning like power, like, oh my God, we have a big company and, we're the biggest
Yeah.
out number one. Like, I don't mean that kind of power. You have a power to really impact not only your business or your culture, but if you take the time to really put the attention where you need to put the attention on your employees, on your organization, and really give the tools and necessary tools in emotional intelligence, what that's going to happen is you are going to affect not only your employees, but your employees will come back home with a
Yeah.
different energy. And then the families of all of these workers are going to be affected in a good way, right?
Yeah.
Right now, what's
Exactly.
happening, unfortunately, and when we talk about burnout, is that because there's no clear communication, because it comes down to communication, a lot of it comes down to communication, because of the stigma as well, like you say, like people they don't trust their leaders.
Yeah.
They don't know that they can go and talk to them. They don't know how to talk to each other as colleagues either, because they're afraid to maybe lose their jobs. They're afraid to report someone because maybe they're going to be seen as just whiners or negative or whatever. And so because there's that lack of communication, of authentic communication, really it comes down to that. It's a lack of transparency and a lack of authenticity. And again, it's not to blame the leaders, right? It's just a lack of understanding and a lack of awareness. But because that happens, um, everybody is keeping their feelings. That's really what it is. They're all keeping their feelings for themselves. and they're all afraid to express what they need to express for them to feel comfortable inside of their workplace. So it's creating all of these different kind of personalities of people that are just like, walking on eggshells most of the time. They're just full of pressure because they're in fear of maybe losing their job if they say something, but they're very uncomfortable in the workplace, in the environment, because it can become very toxic. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of industries, it is incredibly toxic. And what is sad about that is a lot of the times, the people that are at the top, that are the directors, they're not even aware of what's happening inside because
Mhm.
no one talks, right? And if you're
Yeah.
not sensitive to energies, you're not going to notice it, right? So there, again, it's not a thing about blaming, because people could say like, well, it's for the employees to step up and go see their managers and talk about it. If they don't say anything, how can they know, right?
Mhm.
But that's also, if we talk about the managers, it's for the managers to step up their game and to be a little bit more attentive to their team and have a little bit more compassion, or develop compassion, because some don't even know how to develop compassion and empathy, because they haven't been taught that either by their directors. So
Yeah.
there's kind of like this big,
Yeah.
again, ripple effect that can happen negatively, but there's a ripple effect that can happen positively if they become aware, or if they become open to understand what is going on. And
Yeah.
then it's a much nicer scenario to have that confidence from your leaders that, you know what, sometimes they're going to come and check up on you and say, hey, are you okay today? Is everything going well? And even if it has something to do at home, something happened at home, like, it's not professional to talk about, like, you
Yeah.
know what, I've really had a bad day yesterday. My kid was sick or whatever, and it
Yeah.
just really drained me, and I slept like 2 hours. And then, having that compassion from the leader, just, it takes 2 minutes to come and see them and say, you know what, don't worry about like doing too
Yeah.
much today. If there's anything, come and see me. That's it. Don't become a therapist. Don't become this,
Yeah.
person that needs to take care of everybody. That's not what it is. But it's to bring a little bit more sensitivity towards your your people, right?
Yeah.
And to say, hey, you know what, my people matter. And especially right now, and that's why I'm integrating this program, because of AI. And again, I'm not bashing AI. I am not anti-AI.
Yeah.
But what AI is doing is that it's bringing an extra fear into the workplace, because
Yeah.
now AI is so, this big thing that now directors, they all have their attention on that. How can I use this to expand? How can I use this to optimize my system, to automatize as well everything, right? And
Yeah.
what is happening, there's talk about people losing their job because this AI robot can replace them. We
Yeah.
don't want that to happen. But if this communication is not happening, let's say you have a business and you have, I don't know, 20 employees, okay?
Mhm.
And your business, your employees, you don't have a lot of communication with them. They do their job, they're told what to do. There's never really just like, there's no meetings, like people don't really
Yeah.
talk to each other.
Yeah.
But there's this new thing that is on the market that is called AI, and you're kind of like doing a desk job or something, and you know very well that it could happen that they might not need you anymore because of this thing. But
Yeah.
they're not communicating with you that, hey, you know what? I want you guys to know, like all of the 20 employees, I don't want you to worry about you being replaced by a robot. Like, I love my company and I love the work that you do. And I do not want you to stress with that. I'm reassuring you that you will stay here and I will not
Mhm.
replace you with a robot. Just that simple thing of doing can really, really bring, like, lift off something off of everybody's shoulder, because people, they need that reassurance right now, even more than ever. And
Yeah.
so already feeling sometimes like an employee sometimes have that mentality of like, I'm just a number. And they can feel like that if their employers never come and see them and tell them, hey, you know what? I love what you did today. It was a
Yeah.
really great, I love that you helped that other coworker. I appreciate you. It's the simplest things to do. But that thing, what it does again is that it brings up the vibration of the organization, and then it
Yeah.
becomes a culture. And then people feel like they have a sense of belonging and a sense of accomplishment, and they have more initiative, more motivation. They come in at work with a smiley face instead of
That's
like,
right.
I don't want to go to work this morning, you know? And they
Yeah.
affect everybody. So I know that it's possible. And as you can see, I'm very passionate about this because I've worked in places in my past years
Yeah.
where that was not there. And I was really like not enjoying the environment. I was not, because I am a people person and I am a leader myself, and I like to help, but I like to help people that are actually seeing me,
Yeah.
that actually know that I'm good at my job and they appreciate it. And it's not to have like pats on the back all the time, but like once in a while, everybody
Yeah.
needs this, you know? They need to feel like they belong and they're a family of some kind because they're there every day of their lives, mostly,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
You spend sometimes more time with your coworkers than you do with your own family. So there's got to
absolutely.
be something there. That connection is important. And again, that authenticity with AI and everything. There's so many fake things out there now that
Yeah.
everybody's questioning, going, is this real or is this not real? But you're absolutely right. I've had I would say the privilege, a few places that I worked where that culture was in place. And a lot of people are thinking it's like a fairy tale story, but when it's integrated, it is beautiful. First of all, the
Mm,
leader can now lead. The leaders are visionaries. They're supposed to be
yeah.
7, 8 steps ahead of everybody. But if they're putting out fires or if they're macro managing, um, they're not doing their job as a leader.
Yeah.
But it was, and it's that thing when you say, I really had a bad day today. Last night, it was a bad night. You don't have to go into the whole, violin thing. Oh, woe is me. But people would be like, you know what? It's okay. Do what you can. Well, and it wasn't, the culture wasn't, oh, now we got to pick up the slack. It
Mhm.
was genuinely, that's okay because one day I'm gonna have that bad night. And I
Yeah.
know my team is going to be there. At the end of it all evens out again. There's nobody doing more work than the other in a good environment. Because
Yeah.
in a not so good environment, people will take advantage of that. But in this case, it was never, well, you need to pull your weight. It was just, 100% for you today looks different than my 100%. So let me help you. And then when I'm down, somebody else can step up, and that's just a
Yeah.
game changer. You come home, you're not stressed out, you're not, reactive with your own family, you're not sick all weekend because you're so tired. And the
Yeah.
leaders is the same. They're not getting all these extra texts or messages, or people
Yeah.
are not showing up in the morning because they're fed up. It just changes. So you were saying that ripple effect of energy is huge, and we don't see that in a bigger picture, but it makes a huge difference. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to kind of see things as stories all the time. So for me, I'm always imagining what it could look like the simple worker that goes to work, and I imagine it in my head, and he goes to work, and he's happy to see his people, really, because it becomes his
Yeah.
people, and they become all their friends in a way, and then has more initiative all day long because they want to kind of like surpass themselves because they know that they're working for something that is bigger than just their small self, and they're actually serving, and some serving again something that is bigger than them, and they come back home and they want
Yeah.
to talk about their day. They want to talk about what they did. They want to share that with their families, and it's not negative, and there's obviously it's not always going to be like that, but I mean, I think that happens more often than not, that employees will come back home and they want to bitch about like work and who was there and what this person said and how this person reacted. This person didn't help me. I can't go see my my manager because my manager is always overwhelmed with everything and doesn't have time
Mm.
for me and blah blah, all of that. And the sad thing is that we talk about burnout in the with employees, but there's a lot of managers that are really burnt out. So if you have a manager that is burnt out, and even the directors, if you have a manager or director that is burnt out, like what kind of energy are you going to give to your your people? The same energy, right? So how can people trust what's the work environment after that? There's just
Yeah.
no
No.
no
Exactly.
it's not sustainable. There are problems, there are big problems in a lot of industries because of that lack of awareness.
Yeah.
So
And
it
just
needs to change.
exactly, and implementing something like this can change a whole lot. Sometimes that's all you need, that little tweak in your in the way that you run your day, that will change the whole thing. I am curious to know, because I know I have quite a few parents that will be listening to this, but you are in a position right now that is gold. To me, I'm seeing it as gold because parents will know when the kids come home, how was your day? You know, whatever. There's no connection there. Right? But they'll talk to a stranger about everything, and it's just they'll open up to other people like aside from the parents. So you are seeing, because you've been in the schools, and you've introduced this program in the schools. What could you share this? And that might surprise parents, but at least it can help parents know how they can approach their child. What is kind of the reaction that you're seeing there? What is the feedback you're getting from the students on, or what surprised you to say, I didn't realize that the comments that they said, you're just like, oh, wow, they're really getting it. Or, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting that reaction. Can you share some? I'm putting you on the spot for that one, but I'm curious to know what you're seeing when you're like in the trenches,
Yeah.
in there with them.
What I am seeing is that um, there's kind of like different energies going on where I have students that are very curious about what I'm saying,
Yeah.
and other students are not so much, I would say, interested. But I have those students that are like super, how can I say, they want to participate. And so they're kind of like, if I ask a question, they're going to want to participate, and they're going to be even sharing their opinion about like, oh, does that mean that, let's say I talk about empathy and compassion, for example. Well, I want to check with them. Do you know what empathy means, and do you know what compassion means? Because they're not exactly the same thing. And so I've had a
Right.
student actually that was talking to me about compassion, and they were explaining to me how they felt about or what they heard about compassion. And unfortunately, that their kind of perception of compassion to them felt like it was selfish. And so
Okay.
we had kind of like a discussion, not a it wasn't an argument or anything like that, but I mean, they had resistance because they've known all of their life, or at least they thought that compassion was something that was selfish. They didn't understand the real meaning of it. And so I see that there is, yeah, it's a mix of different kind of like they're listening though. But what I've noticed is that they do participate a lot together. Let's say that we're like, okay, now that you've understood like behaviors and how a behavior, let's say is constructed and everything with our emotions, can you come together in a group and talk about like how would you react if you would see someone that would have that kind of behavior, and what would you tell that person, how would you handle it, and whatever. And they do talk a lot together, so they didn't really react with me that much. They were mostly listening, but when it came to them to like just exchanging with each other,
Yeah.
they were like really going at it, and so they were really participating, and you could see that their brains were they're very very smart. Anyways, where I've been.
No, but that's
But
interesting to know, because bringing in a new program like this, and if you're as the adult, presenter, facilitator, you're not seeing anything, but once you see them interact together and it's clicking,
it's
it's
clicking.
working.
Ah,
It's working.
absolutely. It is
Yeah.
clicking. And I like to say what is fun about you know, 16 and 17-year-old is that they're a little bit more like sponge than
Yeah.
adults that are like now 40 and over 40, where they do have that openness and they can put together things probably quicker because they don't have as much resistance, right? So and they have that sense of making, they laugh about situations. Like I've had a student at one point, I was talking about a scenario where I was giving them a scenario where, if you text your boyfriend and you're texting your boyfriend and then you're waiting for him to text back, but then the boyfriend is not texting back before like another hour. You're like going crazy inside
Yeah.
of yourself. But you know, that craziness comes from a pattern, an emotional pattern that happened a couple of other times before and with other,
Yeah.
ex-boyfriends, and you just not looked at it enough. But it will show up every single time when that happens because you haven't dealt with it, right? And I had like students that were like laughing
Yeah.
if they would hear that story and they're like, oh, look at their girlfriend and like, oh my God, this is like I do
We
that.
could relate to that.
Right? They relate to it, right? And I was like, yeah, I see. Like, so yeah, it's fun for that.
That's great. No, and I find that generation. I work a lot with that 15 to 25 range years old, and they are open to that. They see that
Mhm.
the older generations, and I'm that older generation, but they see what we're lacking in terms of
Yes.
interpersonal communication skills, and it's so nice to see that between them, they're really open. They really have it more than we do. It's between the generations, maybe not, but between them, it works really well. So I wanted to see what you see. Yeah, because you're in it now. So it's always interesting to see how that evolution is going.
Yeah.
There's so much I could
Sure.
talk about, but I wanted to see if anybody wants to know more about the work that you do, your framework, how you work with schools and how you work with businesses and corporations. What is the best way to reach you or to follow you or to contact you?
Sure. They can just go on my website if they want, ei-connected.com.
Excellent.
They'll see a couple of things on there. If they really want to know how the program works, the length of the program and everything that's included, absolutely, we can do a presentation. We do pre-presentations just to show like what are the benefits to having this inside your industry for sure. And
Yeah.
we're actually working on as well right now, and we hope that it's going to be done very soon. Where we're actually approaching grants
Mhm.
for support for businesses
Yeah.
so that they don't have to, they can be, I think, covered. I think 50% and more than that with certain grants. So that can help for sure. That can help make a decision of saying like, okay, I think that I want to have change a little bit inside of my organization and yeah, and just become a better leader.
I love that. And it's important to keep up, and we always have something we can work on. So I think it's a great thing to have. I'll be sure to add that in the description box for anybody listening. You can I refer you to that. You can find the link so you can contact Ellie and see what is happening. There's so much more. We could do a whole other episode on this topic still, but is there anything maybe that we didn't talk about on in the since we started? Is there anything you want to add or anything you just want to share before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I think I would just like to shed a light on like what is going on right now in the world and how it's really difficult to rely on the big leaders of the world at
Yeah.
this moment. People still need to be led well, for a sense of community, actually. And I strongly believe that we're going in a direction where, it's up to us as leaders of industries to take that responsibility and be the bigger leaders in that sense, where if we become authentic leaders inside of our own enterprises with our own people, we can make a really big impact. Even if we don't think that we have that power like the bigger leaders, I think that's getting back our power. It's not just relying on that. And like I said earlier, it's the ripple effect that we're doing if we're
Mhm.
doing that. So if it starts in the business organization and then the employees and then the families, it goes inside of the society as well. So
Yeah.
it's something to consider, and
Yeah.
it's all about like authentic leadership.
There is a need for it for sure on every level, globally, but also in the communities, in the individual
Yeah,
countries, so depending on the needs. So
course. But
thank you
where
so
can you
much.
have that control, right? And I think that
Exactly.
the control that we can have right now, it's not out there. It's
No,
within our
it,
systems right
yeah,
now
and
and
it's
inside of
us.
ourselves.
It's
Absolutely.
internally, if you can
Yeah,
manage whatever you're going through, then somebody else doesn't have to deal with it.
yeah,
So already that's a big step. So no, you're right that there is a lot of, so many of us are thinking, who am I? I'm just the one person, but there's 9 billion people on this planet. So
yeah,
almost 9 billion. So it's just like, okay, you're just one, but there's 8 billion of us. So yeah, there's something can be done. So if there's 8 billion drops of water that fall into the ocean, we're gonna get some waves. So
yeah,
I love that. I love it. Thank you
absolutely.
so much for sharing it. It's
Thank you.
always a pleasure. It's just so easy to have these conversations with you. So I do appreciate
Thank
you
you.
coming back on anytime you want to come on. I love it.
Yes,
Yeah, thank you so much.
thank
And for
you.
Thank you. And for everybody listening or watching, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to whichever channel you're listening or watching from. Don't forget to go check out Ellie's website. I will put it in the description so you can get more information if you want to get in contact with her to see if that's a right fit for your school or your organization, your business. That's the place to go. And until next time, stay safe, stay awesome, and we'll talk soon.